All right, welcome to the Catalyst Way, where we have conversations around unleashing the power of purpose and meaning to fuel transformative change in yourself and for others. Welcome to episode 12, and today we're going to talk about why we believe education's broken.
This
Um,
should be good.
and it's something that has been near and dear to my heart, I guess, since you've known me. Because I've always thought education's been broken. Um, and, now that I'm retired, I'm starting to write about why I think education's broken. So we're going to dive right in. Um, so I would be curious to hear your thoughts about why you think what's missing, what might be missing in education. And then I'll share some of my thoughts.
I think it's if I'm looking at it from my perspective of being around athletes and having trained from that place for a number of years and incorporating this work in what I do, it's very plain to see that as far as education is concerned, the drive seems to be centered more towards just making sure that we produce better students and not better individuals, not better people. It's
Mhm.
all performance based. I just need you to make the grades. And as long as you make the grades, then you are good with me, which I end up oftentimes looking at individuals who are academically absolutely where they need to be. But as far as them growing as an individual, you can see where this 14, 15-year-old is clearly struggling because nothing's been done to address their actual character. It's all been based on the fact that if you make good grades, you're fine. You're great. You're good. You stay out of trouble. You make good grades. Who cares if you're an absolute entitled brat and the world should fall at your feet? So from where I stand, that's a lot of what I see. That we just seem to baby our kids along when it comes to dealing with them as an individual and pretty much just letting them have the run of the house. If they make the grades and they continue to show at the top of their class, then they can be the center of the family and we don't need to focus on them being a part of it.
Yep. And it's funny because I just wrote an article and posted it on my LinkedIn page, and it was literally titled, the college paradox, and it's academic success journey versus the personal transformation journey. And we are so focused on GPA and grades, completing requirements, getting a job, pursuing a career, this or that, that we've completely neglected how to be a good person and how to live a
Right.
fulfilling life. We haven't done anything on that. And as things continue to change, like I just had a conversation last Saturday with friends of mine, and we were talking about how they're going to change degrees from 120 credits to like 90 credits, make 3-year college degrees. And I'm like, so that means you're going to cut out more stuff. So you're cutting out stuff that actually is probably needed and putting in stuff of not that's not needed. Where have we lost, you know, living a fulfilling life as an important piece in the college journey?
Was it ever an important piece?
I would say when I was working, you know, our friend Megan and I really focused on this whole purpose and meaning journey, of, build the inner before you start the outer. And I would argue the outer is the way college is, where get your degree, get your job, start a family, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're not right yourself, none of that stuff's going to work. And we wrote our book and we talked about there's a purpose and meaning crisis where people want to find purpose at work, people want to find purpose at college, people want to find purpose at church, people want to find purpose in sports. You have all these people searching for purpose, and who's delivering it?
All right, so now, do we need anyone to deliver it if the argument at these institutions of higher learning is, but hey, when kids come in here, they already know what they want. So why do we need to do this?
They don't know what they want. That's the problem. They don't know what they want. They're like you work with, Manola High School young people.
Correct?
How many of them would you say are independent enough where they can live their lives on their own?
Zero.
Right, because they're being told this is how you need to live.
Right.
There is no independence. It's follow this track. So, where are they going to get? They're not getting it in school, in high school. They're not getting it in middle school. They're not getting it at college. When do they get it? If they get it, which is our argument is, are they ever going to get it? Um, I chuckle. We talk about, Gallup does this thing. So, you know, college is supposed to prep you for a job and find a job that matters. And yet Gallup does a study saying that 67% of people are either not engaged or disengaged at work. So we're preparing people for a workforce where they're not happy. But happiness is not an external thing, it's an internal thing. And we don't do the work on the internal thing. So, you know, before we started this call, we were talking about, so, how can we help make this happen? And one of the comments that we both, what I shared was, you know, why are people not being taught this on purpose and meaning as a part of, the curriculum? And part of it is people don't want to take the time, faculty, staff, administrators. It takes time to do the inner work. I mean, we could teach, we have people go through a 3-day training, but is a 3-day training enough to get you thinking about how I want to live my life?
But that student is most certainly worth the time, right?
I would argue yes, but um,
Which gets us back to if we know then that that student is worth the time and it's not being done. So the problem then exists one level up, which is how do we make sure that faculty and staff and administrators have taken the time to go through this themselves? Because if you're trying to get a student to discover their purpose when you, in essence, haven't discovered yours, then how do we move forward?
well, and I like how you phrase that because one of the, when I get requests, in fact, an administrator would say to me, we want you to help train our faculty and staff to get our students motivated to do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, what if your faculty and staff aren't motivated to do blah, blah, blah? If they're not motivated, why would the students be motivated?
Right.
So, why are we not helping? So, we talked about this is, can institutions at least help students answer two questions? Who am I here to be? What am I here to do? Two basic, easy questions, right?
Yes.
Can we start there? Um, I would say we could start there, but how many people at colleges and universities are willing to start there?
Well, to go back to what you said earlier, I think it's part of a system that believes right now they're getting it right and don't believe any changes need to be made, even to the point where they are reducing some things and they think that's going to provide improvement on the back end. But we both know that that's absolutely not going to be the case.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot now. What does getting it right mean?
Helping make sure that when these students come into these institutions that we are fast tracking them on a path that helps them discover who they are first and what they're here to do second. I think that is getting it right more so than making sure I get you through with a piece of paper and then push you out into the job market.
Well, but that's the problem because they're focused on the latter, not the former.
Right.
So being focused on the latter, and there are so many issues. So one is there's less people going to college than in the past. There are even, and the ones who go to college, like at a four-year institution, only about 60% even finish at four-year schools, and about 30% finish at two-year schools. So even the ones that are going to college, they're not finishing, and they're finishing with no plan. At least if we can help them kind of identify, and we talked about, the aspirational identity, and their purpose statement. If they can at least identify those two things, they can answer who am I here to be and what am I here to do? At least answer those two questions. Even if they don't finish, they have a path. And that's all I want to do. And I think that's all you want to do is just help people answer those two questions. But I also wonder how many faculty and staff and administrators are willing to go through that process themselves
Uh,
to help
I
their
would
students.
say, I would say you would find some. I think the number would probably be on the lower side only because they've settled in their job. It's what they've been doing for a while now. They believe that they are doing it right and to the best of their ability. So for them to be faced with a challenge, because that's what this is, I'm challenging you to help someone on their path to purpose. The real challenge isn't just doing that, but it's also in determining whether or not you even know yours. Because you may discover that yours isn't what you've been doing. And that's scary. And there are some who probably don't even want to venture down that road to begin with. They like what they're doing, they need to stay where they are. Maybe the challenge needs to come from another place. Is this something that needs to start at the high school level, maybe? Do we need college students who are walking in and pushing administration in this manner because they've been introduced to it before they even got on campus to start with?
I would bet if we did this, so here's a funny scenario. What if we did this with seniors in high school? I bet if they knew their had a better understanding of their path in high school, many would not go to college. Because
That's probably true.
yeah, because if you could find a way to do what you need to do and not have to do it and spend tens of thousands, even $100,000 on it, but you could still do what you want to do, why would you spend that money? So you could do certificates. There are other means to do what you need to do. And you think of, 15, 20% of the population are entrepreneurs. You know, I bet as AI progresses and jobs are done with, like traditional jobs, there will be more people doing things on their own earlier. Like they just put out the jobs report and there was only 22,000 new jobs. And I'm sitting there thinking 22,000 new jobs. How many college graduates did we have? Probably several million. And there were 22,000 new jobs. What are all these people going to do? They got to come up with their own thing. We should be emphasizing how to do your own thing, as well as how I can get a job. But the whole, you know, plan your future based on who you want to be and what you're here to do versus I'm going to follow this path and that's the only thing that matters. And if I can't do this path, I'm going to live at home with my parents.
So now, listening to you, I would also say, based on that theory, then that if we could do that with high school seniors, I would also surmise that the ones who end up going on to an institute of higher learning increase their chances of staying
Mhm.
because now they know what they want to do. So I think it helps a university's retention rates.
Well, you would think, but I don't know if they think that way because it's
Well, we know they
butts
don't,
and seats. Yeah, it's all about butts and seats. That's all they're
right?
thinking about, which is the biggest problem that I had. It's, well, but if you're not helping them figure things out, what difference does it make if you get them in the front door if you're not helping them through this process to get them out the other end with something meaningful? It doesn't matter. Um, which is why I continue to write about why this is broken. Um, because we talked a couple episodes ago about why church is broken, and and same thing with education. Education's broken because the priorities are wrong. Just like, membership growth is a church priority, enrollment is a college's. So you're focused on what's in it for me versus how am I serving them? And that's the problem.
Right.
So, we're, Ivor and I, you and I are really focused on how can we change this, like, one church at a time, one school at a time, because it needs to be changed, and we'll just do it which however way we can. But it is something that we're truly passionate about. And like I said, I wrote an article on the college paradox because we really do need to help in this personal transformation process. It's imperative, especially now with people. I mean, people are lost. I mean, we have conversations all the time, and people are just like, I have no idea what I want to do.
And I do think as early as possible, it is important that we help individuals understand how much personal transformation matters. Like it does matter, and you do need it. And even if you don't think you do or recognize you do, just the fact that you are introduced to it will end up enlightening you in some way that at some point the light bulb will come on. I just think not even introducing it at all is where so many people are suffering because they just don't know and they're not even being exposed to it. So that's another reason why we do what we do because we're at least trying to get exposure to happen on a wider scale.
Yep. And we're passionate. We're no, we're obsessed. Yeah,
Yes,
it's not passion anymore.
yes,
It's now an obsession.
yes. It's a welcome burden.
Yeah. That we were so willing to even co-write a book about it. So
Yes.
that's just one piece of the puzzle. So we're going to be doing more workshops, going to places and helping people answer those two damn questions. What am I here to do? Who am I here to be? And what am I here to do? Everybody should be able to answer those questions as they journey through life. So, any other thoughts before we call it a day?
That's
I
it for
imagine we're
now.
going to talk
Yeah.
more about this in the future too.
We will, yes. We'll circle back around to it for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. If you do listen to this and you have any thoughts, please share your comments. I'll actually put a link to the article that I wrote on, the college paradox, academic success versus personal transformation. So if you want to read it, you can check it out. Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Have a great
Bye for
day.
now.
Bye.